This one's a unique podcast, guys, because I'm actually sitting right with Mark today. So, Mark Constable, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Jack. Lovely being downtown Nagambie.
Yes, it's very exciting.
Beautiful place. Brought the rain with me, but that's okay.
Well, and the sun now.
So. I brought the sun as well.
Geez, you
I'm
brought
man
the
of many
sun.
weathers.
So Mark is a mediator, and we've actually done a fair bit of work together, and the approach that Mark has is very refreshing. And so I think this episode for skill building is going to be really useful for those who are thinking about an alternative pathway to dispute resolution, particularly early stage settlement. Really looking at a mediation is the way to go. And so brought Mark on today to talk about the preparation for mediation. So what should someone be doing when they're thinking about, coming along to do a mediation, Mark?
Well, I think that the first question is what is this dispute really about? I think people say it's about parenting arrangements, and I try and reframe it in the sense of, what if it's about co-parenting arrangements? Mm-hmm. And I try and qualify that pretty early. It's about co-parenting. And we have taken a view like that, then that's half the battle, I guess. I think it's also, why are you doing it? And
not just because your lawyer told you to.
Yeah, not just because your lawyer. And what do you hope for most? I often say, what is it that you hope for most out of all of this? And and people come, I just want what's fair. And I go, well, fair is a difficult thing because it doesn't really have a definition in mediation. It's more, it's a subjective view, and fair doesn't really hold up. Mm-hmm. What you think is fair may not be held by everybody in their view of what is fair. I would try to reframe this as, what do you think is the best approach to make sure your kids have a good future and have important relationships with those who are most important in their lives? And there's various ways to do it, but people say, what should I do beforehand? I said, well, what are your proposals? One, why are you doing it? What do you hope for most? And what would you propose? Now, I might say, I know what you want, but what is it that your kids need? I mean, really?
Yeah.
What do they need to live the best life they can? And there's lots of things when you're putting around parenting arrangements, for example, together. It's a whole checklist. And it's all very well to go to court. And, we go to court, we get told our orders. But no one's there to help you put them together. And you go to court, they're torn you apart. And how do you put it all back together again and still try and work together in the future and have a co-parenting relationship? So I try to really push that a lot and have a conversation about what's going on, what's brought you to this point, and try not to focus on the other party so much. And I know that's hard, and often it's to do with the timing in the post-separation period, but it's like, just focus, and I know it's hard, but focus on what these kids need from you both. And it's heartbreaking, and you see a lot of very, very sad moments, but also a lot of hope. Yeah, and that's what I try to instill, that there is hope to do this. And it's not just, it's idealistic to think that you and the other party are going to roll up in 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours and make some of the most important decisions you've ever made in your life and get it right. And I think that's just an unrealistic viewpoint. And I try to work, you've got to work with people. You've got to work with them where they're at. And the other, negotiations imposing upon them. And I think for me, it's where we got to meet people where they're at, and what's their capacity. What's your capacity to listen? What's your capacity to put yourself in each other's shoes and see the world from their eyes? Well, if you know what you wish to propose and what you think would work, how do you think that'll go down? And have you got an idea what the other party might? In your preparation, what do you think they might say? How they might react? What they might propose, and how would you feel about it? What if you hear something you don't like? How are you going to cope with that? Do you practice it? At the beginning of a mediation, I always ask them, what's your agenda? What are the topics, the key topics? You might have 10. That's a lot to cover, but what are the key essential topics you want to cover and try and resolve today? What are we talking about today? And what's realistic? What's possible? And if you have a list, write them out. do your preparation. Some people like to give an opening statement and like to say the reason why I'm here. And some people, there's no pressure to, but people might say this is what I'm really hoping for, and this is what I ideal, etc., etc. But that's very difficult for people. But I reckon practice it. Have an idea what you want to say and practice it, and so it comes out. Because it's all only good in the rehearsal, but once you get there, there's a lot of tension, anxiety, and it's a tough gig for a lot of people, I find. And take your time, man. Slow it down. Just take your time. And what will you do if you trigger? How are you going to cope with that moment? What if you don't get what you want? How are you going to cope with that one? Have some strategies in place. Maybe get some counselling before you turn up. Or talk to your best friend. Take some meditations, do some yoga. But what do you do? Because often I think a lot of us mediate out of a sense of fear. I think that drives us to negotiate. It's the fear of losing, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being relevant, not being important. And I think that's a difficult place. I'm not a psychologist or a counsellor. People sometimes think I am, but I'm not. I'm here. But I think fear will often control what you propose. But if you were to say, well, how do I deal with that fear? Can I park it? Can I put it aside? Still going to be there. You breathe your way through it. You keep focused on what is the most important thing. Because you guys got to work this out. You guys got to be together. Because your kids need you. Right. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, really good start. I think a lot of people, though, thinking about mediation don't even know what the first step is. They're again, as you say, they're fearful. They're going to go through this process. They're preparing themselves mentally. Yeah, okay, I'm going to do mediation. But a lot of things that you just spoke about is actually things that you will talk through in an intake, isn't it? So a lot of people don't even know that they'll actually chat with a mediator before they go into mediation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's that sort of step-by-step process? Okay. Yeah. So somebody calls me, a lawyer might refer you to me, or you might have heard about me, read about me, anyway, or a media. But anyway, so that's right. It's Mark Constable, and so I'd have a chat with you. You bring up and we'd have a chat on the phone and say, what's brought you here? Okay, rightio. The next step would be, if you wish to do it, with somebody like me, for example, I would book you in for a face-to-face, usually a phone now these days, chat, which might go for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I'll ask you a whole range of questions. And we'll get to the nitty-gritty of I'd like to get a bit of a backstory about where this has come from, what's the family history with yourselves, the kids, what are the key topics that you wish to discuss. Always have to screen what is the level, are there any concerns, mental health concerns, any alcohol and drug concerns, any family violence issues, what is the level of control that's been going on, has there been any levels of coercion, what's the dispute really here, what are the current arrangements. So I might ask, but I don't send him, these are the questions. It's a conversation, it's a chat. And it'll go where it'll go. And somehow, a lot of people turn up, and then, oh God, I was really worried, I was really nervous. I said, it's okay. I think you just want to be heard often. And that's what mediation does. It gives you a platform to be heard. You won't get heard in court. And I'm a really good listener. But and I talk a lot. But
anyway, you don't impose a decision.
And that's exactly right. The decision's yours. You own it. So that first step is what they call an intake/assessment. And then I will invite the other party. Typically, I will send an invitation to the other party and give them 10 days, perhaps, to respond.
Email, letter, both?
First one, well, as per the regulations with the Attorney General, I will send an email and say that party A has contacted us, giving all details to initiate the process of mediation around whatever topics are. Please contact us. If it's a parenting matter, I will give them, please let us know within 10 days. Otherwise, I could issue a certificate 60I, which allow that party to proceed to court. Now, that's not a threat. It's I don't want you to go to court. I really don't. I want you to try that. Let's have a chat, sort this out. Because once upon a time you could. Once upon a time you could do all this. And now you're here. So if I don't hear from that client, the party two, within about 7 days, I'll try to contact them again, remind them. And often I do hear from them. They might say, no, I don't want to do it. Okay, no worries. You don't have to do it. It's not mandatory. If you decide not to do it, the party two decides not to do it, or I don't hear from them, I'll let party A know and they can request a certificate and then get their legal advice and proceed to court if they wish. But just say party two does pick up the phone, does ring me, books in to see me. I'll have a chat as I did with you. And then I'll determine, after having met both parties, if there's intervention orders involved, are there court orders involved? What do I need to know? Is there child protection involvement? What's the history here? What's in front of me? What's in the room? I need to know what's in the room. And what's not being said and what is said. And where are the kids in all of this? Where are those babies in all of this? Then, if we proceed, I have to determine whether it's suitable or not. If it's suitable, I'll book a time with you, usually over Zoom. Video conferencing is all the way to go. Pre-COVID, it was all face-to-face, but now it's quite convenient for a lot of people. Now, you could do mediation. I'll book a time with you both. We'll tee it up. I'll send you some documents to prepare for it. And then you could see each other face to face. If we book a room or we do it on Zoom, you're in the same room on Zoom. Or if that's too much, we'll put you in separate rooms so you don't actually see or speak to each other directly. And that would be called a shuttle mediation. And I would shuttle in between. And that happens a lot. And then we go to mediation. If you come up with an agreement, it might just be a small agreement to start with. You might have to come back. Can we come back later? Get the most important things knocked over. I said, well, I'll follow you up in a month's time, see how you're going. And if you want to come back, we'll get into it a bit more. It's also, I'll always follow up with a review to find out how is it going and what's working, what isn't. Do you need to come back in and tune up? And, how's your communication going? That's the key, to be honest. So if you get an agreement, it's called a parenting plan. It's not legally binding. That's in parenting matters. If you go to property, it's a different process. I won't bore you with the details, but it's a different. It involves a few more steps. But if you get an agreement with a mediator in property or parenting issues, it's not legally binding. But I draft them. You can take them to a lawyer and say, "Hey, can you knock your lights out and submit it for consent orders?" And that's you deal with the lawyer. I usually try to frame agreements with your own language, but also with the possibility whether they're going to be written as court orders to save you the time. Anyhow, but I ain't a lawyer and I can't give legal advice. I used to love Boston Legal.
Well, that's a good point. Like, what's the role of a mediator? Because we've already said the mediator doesn't make any decisions. Mediator's also not a lawyer, so can't give legal advice. So,
what's my role?
Yes.
Well, I sing and
yes.
I do.
You lighten the mood.
I broker a discussion. I broker the discussion, and I try to encourage the discussion. I might try and draw out what the options are. I might test the reality of your options or your proposals. I might use particular skills in trying to reframe the conversation, drawing it back to what's on point. Okay, great. Let's get back to what's most important here. You create a safe space in that environment. That's one of my other roles. I present proposals. I try to get people to resolve the dispute. And I always say, what's in dispute? Because we often get caught up in the splintered arguments, tit for tat, or the history. I can't mediate the past.
No.
I'm not here to mediate your past. If you want to discuss your past, it's probably best to go with the counselling option. I only say, what can you change today to make the future better? Let's be future focused. So and I have certain skills in that area. So I must have. And I'm registered with the Attorney General, which you have to be in this gig. But I mediate other, not just parenting, family law matters. I'll mediate other matters, whatever they are. Neighbourhood disputes. I don't know. Estates and wills.
Yes.
I do a lot of that. It's about building relationship. as a mediator. And I think that's really important. You've got to build a relationship. I want to make people feel comfortable. I want to make people feel that they've been heard and listened to, and that they do have agency, and your input is valued. It has to be valued. That you control the outcome. You control the outcome.
Yeah.
Not mine. I'm not there tomorrow to make sure you're doing the right thing. I'm just not. I'll tune in to find out how it's going. Not many mediators will, but I will. So that's a bit of coaching as well. I might talk about communication issues. Okay, well, let's talk about that. How can we do that a bit better? I've got sort of references in terms of other programs you might wish to be part of, like a tuning into kids or a parenting after separation programs, various other things like that. Focus on kids program. There's heaps of stuff out there, and I'm pretty in touch with it all. And if I feel it's necessary, you don't have to do it. Yeah, people just say, "Oh, can we meet up with and have a coffee one day?" Yeah, sure.
I think that's the other point that you touched on before, was really the agency of someone coming into mediation, because not only are you not imposing anything on them, but a lot of people don't feel any agency or input at all as soon as there's some kind of major dispute, or as soon as they've seen a lawyer. It's almost like they've handed over their life to someone else to sort out. But in fact, that's not the lawyer's role either. The lawyer's there to look after your legal rights, but not to take over your life and take away your agency either. It's very interesting, isn't it, how people just sort of feel so helpless sometimes, and yet you're not, because it is still your life.
Yeah, that's so true. We're kind of conditioned in a way that the expert will always have the answers, and somehow
rarely do they.
Rarely. They're human beings. I know they're skilled and studied hard, and certainly got a lot of experience, you'd like to think. There are certain things that, I think advocacy is very important in the right matter, but I have often found, I like lawyers a lot. Went out with one for 4 years, but that's another story. But my best friend's a lawyer. And so anyway, I know a lot of lawyers, and I have a lot of professional relationships with lawyers, and I am fascinated with law, to be honest. I know it's weird, but I often say, let's get the lawyers out of the room if they're not needed. I want to hear from you. I want to. What's going on for you?
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, and if you can't, I'll help you. I'll draw it out. That's our job, in one way. No one knows your kids better than you two. There's all these experts, but no one's got the perfect playbook for parenting. And sometimes we get hooked up on the idea of the perfect parent. But I'm a great advocate of good enough, of being the good enough parent, because we have such expectations of each other that they must be met. But some people just don't have the capacity to meet those expectations. And is good enough okay? Is the child safe? Does the child have a great relationship, a good relationship, a healthy relationship? Because the child has the right, the legal right, to have that relationship with both of you and significant people in their lives.
And they want to, don't they?
Yeah, well, that's it. You get all the things like, I'm not going to send the child because they don't want to. Your child's 4. Or your child's 7. And I hear that, and it's really painful. It must be hard to manage. And I very rarely find, and I'll probably be howled down from the top of the mountains, but maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think kids hate their parents.
No.
I think kids want to love both of you. And they don't choose to separate. The parents separate. The child doesn't separate from the father. The child doesn't choose to separate from the mother. So they don't have to. And how do you have that conversation? These are massive decisions. And it is, how do you have the conversation with the kids to get them to that point? And it's not just a one-off conversation. It's a conversation that keeps going on and developing, and it's developmentally appropriate. And it's the agreement you're doing, the right agreement for their age, for their emotional development, their mental development. Is that the right agreement? How is that going to impact upon them? And we get this, every time they come back, they're crying. There's this organised, okay, I get that. So what? We just throw it out? We just give it away? It's going to take time. Kids are resilient. They'll cope. Are they?
Mm.
Who told you that? That's a big, all kids are resilient. No, they're not.
Mm.
You know your kids. Sit down, let's talk about it. What's been going on? And when do we ever celebrate the great things about your children? I very rarely sit in a mediation until I ask, tell me some things that are wonderful about your kids.
Mm.
What are they passionate about? What makes them happy? Okay, what would they want? If they sat in this room, what you guys know, of course you know. They want to be with both of us. They can't be with both of you at the same time. Okay, or can they? I don't know. I really don't. 50-50. Is that the right approach? It kind of seems fair, but is it? Because what's fair? What's right for your children? And maybe what's right today, you build upon something bigger.
Yep.
People come in riding shotgun, we're just going to get I'm going in for that. And okay, good. But I would always ask, if this doesn't resolve today or at all, and you end up in court, what's the likely outcome going to be? I'd be asking their lawyer that. If this went to court, how would it end up?
Yeah. Well, it's not even what the court will necessarily order either. It's also how much more time, money, energy, stress is it going to take before you even get to that point?
Oh.
How much are you going to drain out of yourselves and everyone else, and how much more of you increase the issues and upset the kids in the process?
Absolutely. And all that money you're spending?
Yeah.
I spoke to a client the other day. $80,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And it didn't have, and it
Nowhere
kind of ended
near close.
I just, what's that? Sports, music lessons, swimming lessons, sport lessons, tutoring,
Overseas
holidays.
Yeah.
Nintendo Switch. I know PS5.
Like 5 of them in every room.
Massages,
Yes.
my yoga class, all of that, and you go, wow.
Yeah.
How did you get to that?
Was it worth it?
Try and resolve it. Try and save that money. Use that money for your kids' education. And, and you might win. But if you win, that implies somebody's lost.
Yeah.
And it's not about win, lose, lose, win, win, win. It's about what is what is going to help our children the most. And also help yourself to manage your life. The idea of court, man. Okay, so every time you go to court, you're thinking about it non-stop, and then you've got to make arrangements where the children will be when you've got to go, and you've got to bring up your mum and dad, your best friends, after school care, whatever, the kinder. And you're all going to go trudge in there, then you trudge out. Oh, no, it's just a mention. Oh, then you go back again. Correction. Go back again.
Or the judge actually goes, this shouldn't be in front of me. Go and work it out in the corridor.
Thank you.
Because they don't want to hear from you.
Well, it's true. I really attach myself to that adage of fancy word, but I like fancy words. But I mean, the idea of it's actually not really a legal issue in most cases. It's actually a relationship issue.
Yeah.
And this isn't a legal issue. Go and sort it out. And I think try and do your best to get some relationship counselling. Pre-mediation. Maybe that might help. So you can prepare yourselves for mediation. Because I don't, what triggers you? The way they might look at each other or the roll of the eyes. If that trigger you, then you're often going to get that in the room. Someone's going to go, because you have this pattern of behavior that you're so used to, both of you, and you know what triggers you and you know what's coming up. And you go, well, how am I going to manage that in the room? Because I don't know it. I'll see it. I've seen it all. But
And
God,
you're unconscious to your own patterns sometimes that are buttons for the other person.
They are.
Yeah.
And they might hear it from you, but not from me. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, because I'm independent. I'm impartial. I'm not on anyone's team, and I might say a different way. But I think part of that is because it's the tone. It's the sound that might trigger me,
or the assumption.
And I think that's a big thing. You assume a lot, and you actually don't know.
Yeah.
You assume there's an intention behind it, and there may not be, and you misinterpret the intention. And I go, really? So everything you say, everything you do, what is your objective in it? What do you intend? And what do you hope to get from the other party? People approach those conversations from a position often, and they deliver statements. They deliver the conversation. And I think, why don't we change our stance on this? Why don't we shift it around and say, rather than deliver and have a particular objective in mind all the time, what if the objective was to try and understand the other party better? What if we would try to listen? How do we listen and try and see it from the other party's point of view and actually approach it more towards a learning conversation? Hard,
Yeah.
but it takes practice. All this takes practice. We're all up, we go, yeah, no worry, we got it sussed. That ain't gonna happen. It might take a lot of time, a lot of practice.
Yeah.
How do you unravel everything that's coiled up now? And it's going to take time.
And
Look after yourself.
decades. But as you've said a couple of times, like there's so much pressure to do it once, but you can do this multiple times. You can come back for tune-ups.
Yeah.
It's not a once done fixed all, because things change over time. And so, yeah, let's remove some of the pressure and just go, well, actually, let's just deal with the next 12 months.
Yeah. Give yourself a realistic time frame. Like, yeah, I think that's really key. And what are the big ticket items, often it's when the parties meet someone new. How are you going to manage that?
Yep.
And how is that person's role going to be with your children?
Yep. Or someone gets another job and they have to move.
Yeah.
Yep. Or primary school to high school, or new extracurricular activities, like so many things. Yeah. What about first boyfriend or girlfriend for the teenage kids? Oh my God.
That's right. How do you have those conversations? Wouldn't it be great if you could both just suck it up and talk?
Yeah.
And just have that conversation. How do we do this?
Yeah.
I'll mediate couples. I think, what's it going to be like on the first day of high school? What's it going to be like at special events? Those moments.
Yep.
And is your child going to go, do I go to that side of the room, or do I go to that side of the room? And the stress and anxiety, I mean, you get that changeover, for example, the stress and anxiety that you're feeling, imagine what your kids are feeling.
Yeah.
And often you get the kids, won't tell you because they don't want to upset you.
Yeah. Or that's why they're crying.
Yeah, they're crying because
so tense.
It breaks my heart, you bring up your babies, and now they've had mum and dad there, and there is circumstances, lots of different scenarios, but the idea of now I've got to go to one house, then I go to another one. And it's about trying to reframe that so it's potentially a positive experience. But it's also, if you guys aren't talking for whatever reason, if you're not communicating, how are you going to co-parent? So, well, maybe you go, let's get better at communicating. Let's get better at focusing on our kids and having a conversation, an adult conversation about our babies. Because, often I find that when there's emergencies that happen, it brings people together in those moments, in the hospital, because all of a sudden you realise this is the most important thing in my life. And I have seen that. And, people actually collaborate then. How do you have a collaborative co-parenting relationship? That involves a lot of people. Get all your team on board. Get your parents and your grandparents and your aunties and uncles and Uncle Jack down the road. I don't know, get them all on the same page, mate. And, don't let them talk nasty about each other. Don't bag the other parent and tell everybody else in your orbit not to say anything. I mean, you can in your own time if that's what you need to do, but don't let the kids aren't part of that fight. There's nothing more important than fulfilling your purpose. And one of your great purposes in life is to be a parent.
Wow. On that note,
I don't know where they came from.
The wisdom that has come out of this man's mouth.
Well, I think my brother say a lot of other things, but anyway.
So, Mark, where can people find you if they'd like to work with you?
Oh.
Mark Constable Mediation.
Well, that's right. Yes.
Contact me and I'll put you in touch.
Yeah, contact Jackie. Well, you'd probably find me at the whole gate. Sorry. No, I don't really drink that. Yeah. So anyway, yes, you can find me at Mark Constable Mediation. I guess that's it. Or look up Mark Constable and go, oh, that's that guy with the hat.
and you're listed with all the registered places that you need to be. So you're on a list of registered mediators. So
I am.
people can find you there. But yeah, Google.
Yeah,
Google machine.
Google's my friend. Or LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
But anyhow, yeah. Anyway, I'm just happy to have a chat. If you need to have a chat and say, hey, get some ideas, no worries at all. I'm obviously.
Wonderful. Yeah, see, remove the pressure. Just have a chat, see if it's right for you. Do the intake. If the other party doesn't come, no harm done. Easy.
Yeah.
At least get something started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you run into people from years before.
Mm.
Hey, me or the guy with the hat? Oh, you're that singing guy. You know, hey, how's it going? Oh, no good. Oh, but I know.
You solved our, yeah.
Well, it starts that conversation.
Yeah.
It's like a turning point, or you reach a tipping point, and often I pray to God, that we kind of worked it out actually, but we needed that chat, and we needed some honest truth from somebody who wasn't so invested, and it's okay. Oh, it's all right. The kids are going great, and I think kids just want to be kids. You just want them to be kids and live the life that they're meant to as kids, and their world is hard enough for us to fight over them, and you can't have half of a child. There's no Solomon here, and children just want you both in their lives, and they want to know that the supporters, you've got their back, and in most cases, not all. Oh, I don't know.
You've given us a lot of wisdom. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. Macambi's really nice.
Come again.